We're ready.
All right, so a lot can happen in a year, and that's what we'll be focusing on for the most part. Once again, for everyone in the back who can't quite hear it, this is officially, without a shadow of a doubt, Soup City Sins a year later. To reacquaint ourselves, at least temporarily, with the idea of what Chicago is. Everyone typically quotes the Sandburg poem about the city, world builder, hog killer, and the like. I prefer, as a quick synopsis as to what the city actually is, one of the architects of what Chicago is, his thumbprint as ingrained into what Chicago is as the many bridges out of the loop, as indicative of the city as Lakeshore Drive itself. Frank Lloyd Wright, who didn't actually grow up in Chicago, but instead in an outlying suburb, Oak Park to be exact, is quoted as saying, eventually, I think Chicago will be the most beautiful, great city left in the world. There's a lot you can read into the idea of that, but it means that there is a certain resiliency to Chicago. There's a certain way of things being done here in Chicago. It is a city of firsts. It is a city that laid the blueprint for the modern American suburb. It is the city that laid the blueprint for what became the Manhattan Project. It is the city that laid the blueprint for the modern ideal of urban dwelling. The same similar brilliant minds that outlined a city and a garden, the herbs and horto that is part of Chicago's DNA, worked in New York, San Francisco, Seattle, taking with them parts of Chicago that had seeped into their blood. The idea of a digigrade street that moves concentrically outward in lines of latitude and longitude, equidistance from themselves. A Chicago block will always be a Chicago block, even if it is not in Chicago. There's a size and a measure to it. And a year ago, we drew down the curtain on the shelter. They moved in their own directions outward from the center of being a unified whole. There were threats, as always, hanging over their heads and promises on their horizon. There were intrigues and conspiracies built up around them by their actions and their inactions. It has been a year. A blink of an eye for elder kindred, but for those who don't withdraw into their hermitage, those who don't give in to the darkness in their own souls, a year is a hell of a long time. So as we envision ourselves soaring over the darkened outlying suburbs, brief twinkling lights there below us in the distance, as we move past the gently swaying planes that lead us into the heart of the downtown area, into the loop, down past the magnificent mile, taking Lakeshore Drive north, the lake beating at the periphery of our vision. And we come to a light in the Harrisvaro shelter, moving past the teeming masses of homeless and unhoused, the overworked and responsible for them. We find ourselves in the quiet of the office. The many ways of entering into the shelter's haven, still in states of disrepair, barring the office from having access. The many entries that took place in this office that had at one time been a hotel, a hospital, a morgue, and finally a forgotten thing, revitalized by the attempt to help those who could not help themselves. We find Hestia looking over the books, looking over the day-to-day, the sounds out there just beyond the door, built up to such a volume that one could almost hear it. The usual room sounds of a shelter, bedding down, quieting down, settling in. What has Hestia been up to in this last year? What has she managed? What is on her agenda for the now?
I think some of the things she would like to have done is repair her relationship with Darnell and the other members of the staff. After dealing with that whole fallout of the police situation, and I know they definitely would have focused on taking care of the person that was coming after them. And that probably would have been like one of the last big skirmishes or scuffles that they attempted to tie themselves into. She's also been making inroads back into the Chantry due to the fact that she knows DuSable had made it very clear that actions spoke louder than words. So she was making a concerted effort to actually do things for the Chantry and be part of the Chantry again, seeing as how there was very little left of the people that she previously cared about. She would have given Lucio the space to decide whether or not he wanted to love her back. Currently, it's basically just rebuilding the walls that protect the shelter. trying her best to not make friends with the gangs, but just like, hey, look, we're not gonna fuck with you, don't fuck with us, we can be chill. That sort of thing. So she's just, like I said, just doing her best to get back to protecting her people. Putting money into the shelter, expanding the things that they offer, using what her and I can't remember her name now. The tattoo artist. What they came up with to put money in both their pockets and other people's pockets so that they could be like left alone, basically. They went through with that whole having special meetings to bring the Bahari kind of secretly back under their care, so that, you know, it wasn't so obvious, but they were using them to make money, basically. Yeah, so that's what it is. She's moving money around, throwing up defenses, very much listening to what advice she was given by their benefactor. She's kind of personal relationships all but shut everybody out so that they can't be used to hurt her anymore. So she's very much going back to Miss Green, to the staff. I said, that's no more. Very business, even with her quote-unquote brother. So yeah, that's where she's at.
Okay. Well, that is quite the list of things that she was hoping to accomplish, and there's a lot that was out there to be done. So let's approximate, starting from the top. Can you do me a favor? Go ahead and give me a charisma and leadership role, because you are moving the Donnell as a centerpiece and leading the shelter staff over these last few months.
Where are we rolling for this?
Any of the...
my place there.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot that was there. That was on me. Or Hunger 1. Substitute, I'll keep it. Okay, what else?
In the grand scheme of things, these last few months, these last few dedicated mountains of effort to unify and focus Darnell and the staff at large towards a more business relationship, establishing a distance and, let's be perfectly honest, insulating and isolating herself from what elements of warmth were left to her is and has been a fraught path. There was a night a few weeks ago, as per usual, you were holed up in the office, going over the last few days, this, that, and the other, the ledger and agenda and the books and the balancing of the money, and you're sourcing other sources of income for the shelter and what have you. It gotten to the point where the camaraderie and closeness that had been there shattered, ruined, was almost strong enough that you could put a finger on it, that you could almost count on it being there. And then there are others where the wounds of the last few years were evident. This was one of those nights where those wounds shown themselves to be far less healed than you hoped. A process. Unlike you, unlike the kindred that exists, not even just the kindred that you know, just the kindred that exists. Donnell, the staff, are in fact flesh and blood, actual living entity, living semi-solid bags of liquid. So grieving a loss is a process. It takes time, it takes concerted effort, and it oftentimes, because you have to occasionally reopen the wound so that it heals from the inside out, far more painful than most would be able to pretend to enjoy. This was one of those nights where everyone last nerve had been danced on. This was the night where everyone was far more ragged and raw because of the happenings over the last few weeks, the realities of the new mayor settling into place, the realities of having lost the primary angel investor, and it came due. You heard a raised voice, and you heard a responding raised voice. The office door having been refitted and secured thicker than usual made it so that everything was muffled. You couldn't tell whom was doing what, merely the raised volume being as it was loud enough to be heard in the office. And you exited to find not the chaos you feared, not police storming, not SWAT teams swooping through, not some other kindred raising hell, not some bodiless dead creating a situation. No, something far more volatile. Your head cook and your manager at each other's throats verbally. The tension finally having broken through, and their already strained relationship because of their shared pain at the loss of you having boiled over and exploded out of them. Pans were being thrown along with words. The members of what was once a vibrant actual community fearing for their existence like none other. Because there's one thing facing down an actual danger. There's another when being broken apart to be put back together, to be healed. And this night the words flew. Yeah, so what? Fuck yourself. I don't care if she couldn't love me. I'm just glad she couldn't bother me spending time with you. Watch your motherfucking mouth. You don't tell me what to do. I'm the fucking manager. You ain't shit but her lapdog. Hanging on to some idea of a family that you will never fucking have because you ain't worth it. I ain't worth it. At least I was never a fucking strung out goddamn junkie. I may not have ever been, but I never pissed away what I had. And the words flying, striking true. The shared hurt and grieving having turned inward and poisonous against itself. Standing in the doorway, what would it have been that Hestia did?
I'm assuming there have been other nights like this, and one of two things usually would happen. Either she would ignore it and let them work it out themselves, or get involved and back them off. I think with this being as tense as it was and as personal as it's getting, she would have put the two fingers in her mouth and whistled to cut the tension, or cut their attention and bring it to her. No, the fuck y'all not standing in the middle of the hallway sounding like two of the people that stay here and not two of the people that run here. Office, now. Turns back around and heads into the office to wait for them.
The grumbling and still relatively loyal support shows through as they all but elbow and push and not quite touch, but the jerky responses of people that under any other circumstance probably would have thrown hands or stabbed one another or worse. As they enter into the office, the door slamming behind them, each of them putting themselves in the most advantageous position to engage in actual harm. It is that palpable how much and how vibrant their pain is.
Just gonna look at them both for a minute, just taking them both in. And she knows this is her fault. It's not unclear. This is a lot to do with her. But at the same time, she honestly feels like for their own good is what she's done. Or this is why she's done this, for their own good. Looking at them both. All right, who started it this time?
They look at each other.
Are we deaf tonight? Do we need to clean our ears out? Who started it?
We ain't no motherfucking kid. It's not about who started it. And nobody started shit. This.
Oh, you not?
No.
You not? So why you in the hallway yelling like a bunch of kids?
I'm tired of her shit. I'm tired of your shit. No. There was.
Why don't y'all just insult each other's mamas and get it over with?
They look at you when you say insult their mamas. The conjoined, what the fuck? Breathing.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. What the fuck?
Look, Miss Green, ain't shit nobody started. This has been going on for a long fucking time, and I'm tired of it. She turned away to two little girls from Dalton. You know the little girls I'm talking about, the ones that used to work here. We are not going to take back motherfuckers that turn their back on us. We have enough of that inside already. Those little college girls, when they were here, weren't doing nothing but bringing police down on us anyway. Ain't no sense of letting them back here when tall, dark, and scary ain't even bothering to come around no more. They were only given the job anyway because he was here. That ain't your place to say who would. It damn sure is. An army, a city, a family lives on their stomach, and I ain't fucking feeding them. You don't get to decide who. Yes, the fuck I do. Tell him, Hestia, who did you give the kitchen to and why? Because I make sure that we get the best possible meals for almost no money whatsoever. I do whatever I can. And who do you think makes sure we have enough money so that you can do whatever you can? You can't do your job without me. Well then fine, fuck it, I won't do my damn job. And it'll still be your fault. Now see, there we go with that bullshit again. If you can't have your way, then you gonna quit and shut down. That's the most childish shit that I've ever seen.
She puts her hand on her face and kind of rubs. First off, why Tall, Dark, and Broody ain't here no more is entirely his thing. This is a volunteer situation. If he don't want to volunteer no more, I'm not going to twist his arm and make him be here. As is what it is. It hurts, but it is what it is. As far as who runs what, you know, she looks at her now. You know I gave her full domain of the kitchen. It is her kitchen. But she looks at we don't turn people away as far as feeding them go.
Ain't about feeding them. They sit now hanging around trying to talk about like they're gonna work here, like they're gonna help out. We don't need nobody's helping hand that it feels that they are too good to be here, to stay here.
And nobody said nothing to me about this. Nobody had them come talk to me.
Why
about
you
being hide and not hide? It don't matter
you
if I'm big
hired
or not.
me and have me as the manager of this. No matter whatever happened between you and I and our parents and all of that, I have a job to do. And I feel that they were a benefit, even if it is just 1 or 2 nights a week. The help could be used. They were not helping. They had that look all strung out, needing something. You always hoping for the best, and how has that worked out for you? Hoping for someone's better side to show. You just as broke as I am.
Wait, what?
He didn't see them. They had the same look you occasionally have. I know you using again, just like when he was back on the bottle.
Oh shit. And I am not using anything. I don't know.
Really?
Lord help me,
Miss Green, people talk. People talk.
Of course they talk. They always talking.
And Jake, that you had your way with a couple of years ago, he's been coming back around. He ain't decided to stay with us no more, but he's been coming back around. He's almost gotten himself mostly clean. And he has some stories to tell, if you will, about a night he spent with you inside the... Watch your mouth. Now, you watch your mouth. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Hestia, I know. And she nervously puts that unlit cigarette back in her mouth and gently closes the distance a step or two. Look, I've never told you nor know anybody else, but Jake is almost clean, and one of the steps is about forgiveness. And while he working his steps, or trying to, and missing a few here and there, maybe it's time for you to work yours. There you go again. You think just because you have had an issue with substances that everybody else has. Everybody's addicted to something. It's a society that we live in. It is the way that we are raised to escape pain, to shut ourselves off, to make ourselves a life of whatever party we think is happening around us. Now, Hestia, you know I love you. And I would love you so much more if you would let me. But we've been working together long enough that I figured that Instead of keeping your secrets, I will share them with you. And I know.
She's just kind of stuck on me. Sick like she is sometimes. She knows what that means. And it's like, oh no. And that she's putting two and two together as to maybe why Lucio ain't been around. So she catches the rest of it, but it's mostly focusing on what was said. She looks at Darnell. Did they leave any forward an address or something so I can reach them? I would like to see them and have them come in so I can at least talk to them and decide on whether or not I'm gonna let them back working here. I understand she's playing placate to both. I understand how you feel. They left. But maybe we don't know the whole story as far as where they went and why. So we could at least hear them out and make a decision. Even if I don't hire them back, she turns the door down. I would at least like to know what happened. Is that fair?
I suppose it is. I'll get that information for you. He turned around and begins to leave. He's been working the front desk as his office for a very long while, and this, as he walks out the door to get the information, drives that home. He has distanced himself from the manager's office. This office. You. And that was a few weeks ago. As Hestia is ciphering and cycling through papers there on the desk, the ledger of debits and deposits and this and that, the supply receipts for some of them are a little bit overdue, overdrawn, but for the most part they're amenable. They're easily enough balanced, one or the other, to pay a part on to keep your supply coming in. You wouldn't believe how much toilet paper you all go through, or how much ink you all go through, or how many hot dog buns, hamburger buns that end up being wasted, even though you all do your best to feed everyone until they're full, not just having a meal. How much waste there is that is involved, and the fact that the city will and does troll your garbage cans. A lid's up and that's a citation. Something's easily over the lid or leaking out of it, that's a citation. Too many citations, and yes, the newly reformed Neighborhood Alliance will potentially get their way. Thinking on that night a couple of weeks ago and seeing the information that he jotted down for the girls, drives that moment home and brings that night back into crystallized clarity. Looking at it, it's hard to not hear their voices arguing. Looking at it, it's hard to not think what that could mean, and why you haven't had time to follow up on that. You've been busy. There's a lot going on. There always is. And there's more going on with the idea of refocusing. And as you look at that sheet of paper, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your either manipulation and investigation, or your manipulation and larceny for the efficacious nature of your activities to try to woo over the police to thinking you all, the shelter, isn't worth their time and harmless and what have you. One of the many things that is clear, self-evident, and obvious in nearly every city is that graft, cronyism, and all sorts of society ills run rampant through the police force. They are out there day in, day out in the muck and mire. And even the best, most brightest, hopeful member of the force is exposed to an ungodly amount of crime, and those who profit from it, from those who bend the law until it screams to those who shatter it into a million pieces, those who get away with it, and those who make their living off of its dividends. It is with all due blatant honesty that Hestia's found the easiest way, or the best way has been simply to pay them. Put them on your payroll. While you can't affect them as per the edicts of Loden, as per the edicts of Prince Jackson, you can ensure that they are paid as best as possible to look the other way. You're not mind raping any of them. You're not coercing any of them. You're not trying to take control over any of them, but you are using the systems in place to obtain some levels of peace for the shelter and the environment therein. So long as there is a non-violent incident, they will look the other way for the most part. Hestia's monthly meetings with the local police precinct, visiting with pastries and envelopes for those already on staff, the vice squad leaders, the gang strike force leaders, and all of the others who willingly attempt to work with and against the neighborhood in regards to the shelter, making sure that everybody has their small little piece to keep the peace. Last month being more fraught than usual because there's a new LT being transferred into the area, who doesn't know about the media blackout for Rogers Park, who doesn't know that the shelter is in effect a no-fly zone. Though he didn't know and was unwilling initially to get with the program until you met with him last month. Looking at the book of matches sitting there, you remember arriving having cased the block, having made sure that there wasn't too many police cars in the parking lot. There weren't any undercovers across the street, to make sure that you had the scope of things. You walked into the red room next to the Mark II, into that back booth where all of the best meetings have happened for you in the last few months. And there he sat. For an undercover, he had all the makings of an accountant. His hair braided back into a near mid-back ponytail. His wire-rimmed glasses sitting high and tight, firmly in place as if they have been glued. And while all around him, most of the patrons for the evening had some cognac or some whiskey or a blue motherfucker or an Incredible Hulk, all of the usual drinks you would expect. In fact, you had made it a habit to have paid off the bartender so that that booth, that table, you take care of. Drinks were on you. And typically, the other officers typically ran up that bill as high as they possibly could. They drank like fish. And yet, there he sat, his club soda bubbling effervescently on the table, the napkin soaked, letting you know that he's had more than a few of these particular cocktails. A club soda with extra lime. As all around him, the drunkenness of adults carousing bounced and vibrated off the walls. When you approached the table and you looked down on him, what did you say?
Good evening. I am sorry I'm a little behind tonight. I didn't keep you waiting too long, did I?
You did, but that's to be expected. Some of the folks let me know how you operate.
Well, running a business, even a nonprofit one, is fairly taxing. But that's not what we're here to talk. Well, we are here to talk about that tonight, but I don't want to jump to business right out of the gate. And she sits down across from him, looking at his drink. I see you prefer to be in full control. Very different from some of your other friends.
And about control. I'm a black man in Chicago. I don't have any control at all. Never have, never will. I just don't like the idea that you're using those poor folks for your own ends. And I'm going to find out why. You do know that, right?
I'm not using them for anything. I'm providing for them.
No, there's too much money.
I've helped several of them turn their lives around.
You say that, and I'm sure that there's provable, traceable information to support that, but there's too much money flowing out of that place. There are too many incidents that would have had any other business shut down and the owners run out of the city, not just out of their neighborhood. I don't know if you bothered to do any of your famed research on me, but I graduated with this kid from the old neighborhood out south. You wouldn't know anything about that, being up here on the North Pole. This kid named Derek Jackson. Great kid. Could have been a first round draft pick in the NFL. Could have been a first round draft pick for the NBA. Was physically gifted in every aspect. And I let him, like everybody else around us, do the dumbest shit possible. Because I was banking on him getting into the big time. I knew he was good to go. He could outplay anybody. He can outscore anybody. But he got turned out by money. He got turned out by turning a blind eye. The same blind eye that everybody in the neighborhood turned towards him. And I swore when he was taken away that I wouldn't sit quietly by and let something that I know is evil continue. It's the reason why I'm the fastest rising lieutenant of color in the CPD. And I didn't take this meeting for you to convince me. I took this meeting so you know that I'm coming for the shelter. You know that I'm not going to let whatever evil you're doing, because it doesn't make sense, to continue. I want you to know the only way to stop me is to kill me.
He lets him have his monologue and chest beating moment. She just kind of sits looking at him for a minute because he reminds her very deeply of somebody else. Somebody that she watched slowly sink into darkness. Somebody who was a hero at first, or attempted to be. And she starts to wonder just how long it's going to take for this lieutenant to get worn down around the edges. She knows who Derek is, but can't explain exactly how she knows who Derek is because it would bring up too many questions. As to how they're related. But hearing the name, she kind of nods. I think I've heard things about that Derek Jackson person. Very sad story. I can see that you're somewhat of an Avenger. Very brave. And I understand we're not here for me to talk you out of what it is you're planning to do. So all I can do is continue to do the good that I'm doing so that I prove you wrong. Does that sound fair to you?
You think that you can prove me wrong?
I proved a lot of people wrong. I grew up proving people wrong. So just like you grew up to be a hero, I grew up to prove people wrong.
You think I'm joking, don't you? You think I'm trying to drive up the price that you're gonna bribe me with, right?
Bribe is such an ugly word. Cooperate is much nicer.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen, lady. If I could look that mafia princess in her face and tell her that I'm coming for you, there's not much you can do.
Oh, see, that's the difference between her and me. She's actually dangerous and could have you killed. I, on the other hand, don't want to see you die. I, on the other hand, I'm not doing anything wrong. So that's our difference. So you can chase her all you feel like. Me, I'd rather you not, but I'm not going to dissuade you. I can already see that, like I said. But if you'd like to cooperate, I don't mind giving a donation to whatever it is you want me to donate to. But since you're such a upstanding citizen, I don't think that's something you're going to want now, is it? And she keeps smiling at him. She's not trying to intimidate him. She's not trying to bullshit him. She's literally just giving him what it is that he thinks he came for.
As she sits talking with him, the cocktailer swings by the table, setting a book of matches and a pack of cigarettes in front of you. There's a kid that can't be in here that wants to talk to you. Said that you would understand. And he frowns at you. Then looks at the cigarettes. And the matches. And the cocktailer who's now moving across the floor to the next table. You want to explain that?
Sorry, woman. Did he ask her to explain it?
No, he asked you to explain it.
I'm being invited out to have a smoke. It should be obvious. Pack of cigarettes, matches.
What's the code? I know that means something more than it means.
Kind of chuckles at him. It's literally just me being invited outside because we can't smoke inside, right? It would be against the law. And I don't want to break the law, so that means if I want to smoke these, I have to step outside. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, hurry it up so we can finish this meeting and I can get back to what I need to do.
Fair enough. And she will take her pack of cigarettes that she's not going to smoke and the matches and walks quickly, not too quickly because she doesn't want him to get suspicious, but he's already suspicious, so she walks him to the door and peeks her head out to see which way the requester of this meeting is and steps out.
When you step out the door, Damien is standing south of you on West Fargo, right there where Fargo crosses into Western. And as you move towards him, just natural paranoia from living in the city as long as you have and dealing with the things that you have, you start looking for the setup, because that's literally what this sort of situation is normally. And so as you see two uniformed officers moving into the Mark II behind you, into the red room, you already know what sort of situation is happening. It was the last night you saw the LT. Looking at that pack of matches there on your desk. Amid all the old faces becoming new, and a new face that you will never see again.
Now, out of curiosity, out of character, do we think that he was reassigned or that he disappeared?
There are roughly 10 to 25 missing persons every day in Chicago. There's still a active mass murderer operating in the area as far as the police are concerned. They don't want to scare the public and release any details of their crimes, and they are still active in the city. And with as many homicides that take place in the city over the course of a month, as well as the attempted homicides, they don't want to scare the public any more than they already are. So most of them go underreported. You are sure in your heart of hearts that the LT is one of them. The many disappeared should never be found again. Poof, up in smoke, gone like magic. The idea of gone like magic brings up the chantry. In your efforts of growing closer within the chantry, attempting to pass the tribunals necessary to gain actual status, not bequeath, not brevet rank promotions, but actual status within the chantry, has required effort. There's a hungry class and grade of acolytes and apprentices and lower mysteried warlocks clambering up the ladder with all due haste and attention. DuSable has managed to bring the brightest, hungriest minds under the sway of the greater Midwestern Chantry that has its own natural complications. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus blood sorcery to approximate the inroads you've made within the chantry?
Final answer.
Interesting. Tonight's the night. There is, as a precursor to ascending from one circle of mystery to the next, there's a tribunal. The Tremere love their tribunals. It is job application, firing squad, national trivial show, all rolled into one. It is a potential feeding frenzy, as well as a riding the stairway to heaven, the escalator, as it were. So it is a moment fraught with all manner of fleeting remembered emotions. One of the precursors to, in fact, ascending once you reach a certain circle of mystery is being chosen to sit in and operate and act as part of a tribunal for an acolyte, an apprentice, or a lower circled mysteried warlock. You have been asked to be part of the tribunal. Looking at the clock on the wall, you realize that you have just enough time to make it down to Hyde Park and into the Central Chantry in time to discuss the candidate who is the victim of this particular tribunal.
In that case, she would definitely get a motor on because she does not wish to be late.
funny how the tables turn and things change. And as Hestia makes that far too familiar drive across the city, moving from one stratosphere to the next, moving through several differing variations in economy and financial status and social status, played out just outside of her window. You can tell the general poverty or wealth level of an area based on the buildings, based on the neighborhood, based on the quality of the roads themselves, even on the major thoroughfares, taking Archer or the 90 or 94, taking the 290 or LSD, and those same signs are present. Even more so if you were on public transportation. If you were on the red line, you know where you were by scent. And so as Hestia makes that drive, it is 18 after. Instead of taking a full 10, let's take a quick, let's be back here at 25 after, okay?
Sounds good.
So, how was your break?
Good. I didn't really even go anywhere. I just kind of took a breath and went through some of the chats. I know Sherry was like asking whether I was going to post or not, but I hadn't even answered it because we were playing.
Okay. So crossing several city boundaries, making your way to the Chantry, Hestia gets there to the Blackstone Library, which operates as the central chantry for the entirety of the Midwestern Warlocks. What does it feel like standing here not as an outsider, but as a member?
There is a sense of belonging that she's kind of been looking for. There is that finality of kind of not coming home, but having a place to belong. But there's also that heaviness of everything that she had to do to get here. All the things that have happened to her on her journey back to this. It's all kind of in her head, but it's mostly a good feeling. She mostly kind of feels like proud and like head high, you know, that I had all this against me and yet I'm still standing here and I'm walking into this building with my own power, under my own power in a way. Yes, it was nice when Dusable was helping her out, but then she knew that wasn't going to last. So this very much feels like she got to have the experience that other people had becoming part of the Chantry. Whereas her first time around, she was schooled and taken in, but didn't have to go through all this. And that was why there was very much a feeling of desperate belonging between her and other people in the Chantry. It was very kind of like a homeschool situation where I was homeschooled and the rest of you guys went to public school. So while I'm less socially adept than you and probably better than you, that whole feeling has kind of gotten washed away, and she's now I'm one of the people. So yeah, that's kind of where she's at. She's walking in with a purpose tonight.
And that purpose being as it is, the decision to help or hinder some other warlock's progress. What that means. You are potentially deciding someone's fate. You haven't had the opportunity of meeting them. You've been given a little information here and there, rumors and scuttlebutt. But as you see them, because there is, of course, a process to tribunals. Part of it is very much the isolation of the ostracization, because there's a lot riding on what happens here tonight. It's odd being this side of the paradigm, because as they are, of course, isolated and led into the chamber that the tribunals happen in, there is the very much feeling of the whispers and the susurrus of, well, you know, they're not going to make it. You know, their knife work is pretty bad. Yeah, I heard that they were looking into the, you know, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, really? They did? Yeah. I heard they're following in the footsteps of, no, I thought that they were, yeah, they're all taken care of. Yeah. Oh, hey, Miss Green, how we doing? It's good to see you, Magister Green. Big night, huh?
She's used to being whispered about. That's not new for her, so she just kind of puts on a smile. Yeah, big night for a lot of things. I hope you guys are having a good evening.
Well, we're looking to see whether they come out in the robes of the second mystery, or are they bumped back down to an acolyte. It's going to be fun either way. I hope you make the right decision.
Indeed. Well, it's not entirely just on me. I will definitely be taking into account what my other magisters and betters have to say.
No, understandable, but all of the right voices at all of the right times, making the right decisions makes all the difference in the world.
Very true. I will go get ready and see you all in the chambers. And she makes her way away.
There have been so many upheavals as far as the warlocks of the Midwest. There's been so many less than beneficial outcomes from several of these gatherings, when all of the, or more of the upper management, the upper echelons, the upper mysteries have gathered. There was the coup attempt by Sylvia. There was the brewing storm and the outcomes of what happened with Magister Rich and Magister Archer out there in the Vision Factory Chantry. There was what became of the Steel Rose Chantry. There's still the gossip going around about the Golgotha Borstal Chantry House. And then there's what's going on presently with the Goodland Cream City Chantry there in Milwaukee. How they're embattled by the necromancers of the Hecata, how they're being outdone and outproduced when it comes to the storage and maintenance of various vintages of Vitae. You recently came into knowledge that supposedly there's a non-Tremere Hecata run business that is providing vintages as far south as New Orleans, as far west as Las Vegas, and as far east as Miami and New York. And not one of those mysterious routes of delivery, nor the vintages themselves have been caught, captured, or sampled by the Tremere. It's a blow to the ego, it's a blow to the respect that you all need to maintain your positions of authority and power, to maintain your safety. And Magister Green of the Goodland Cream City Chantry seems to be showing her true leanings, her true worth. Or at least that's the way that the gossip and scuttlebutt is going. It's very hard when a lot of the information that comes through, people have to double check it, make sure that it's not Magister Green of the Greater Midwestern Chantry. Is not green without the E, that it is in fact green with the E that is failing the Chantry. So as you gather, your nearest competitor for a position being, Magister Cross, your less than trusted fellow Magister Regent Rose, as he likes to remind individuals, the only warlock to technically have two chantries or sanctums under his control. And then, of course, there's supposed Regent Dubiard, who's responsible for the Golgotha Borstal Chantry. Looking high and low without making it appear as if you're doing so, you're wondering why Erichto isn't here. She's been Dusable's right hand for ages, and yet she's not here presently. And if things couldn't get worse, in walks Acolyte Worth. Her long, straightened wig held in place by bobby pins and the like. The fact that she's wearing an actual Chanel pantsuit only adding to some sense of really on your part. And as the tribunal begins and everyone settles into their places, as you dread it, you're up first. What questions would you like to open the tribunal with?
On my way in this evening, I was reminded of the fact that there are things being whispered in the halls and outside of them in other places about who and what we are as a clan, as a family, as it were. One of which has to do with the import and export of a certain several set of vintages out of Milwaukee and going to other places that we have yet to get any sort of control over. I would like to know, should you be promoted and take the next steps, what are your ideas on changing that? What would you do to bring fresh ideas so that we can make that change and get our hands on what we've been attempting to?
Okay. Yeah, so that's stupid. Why are we chasing behind what somebody else is doing instead of leading the way? Why are we so focused on looking back instead of trying to leap forward? What I would do is tell everybody to stop, get everybody to stop chasing behind what they're doing. Chasing behind is why we ain't as respected as we should be. Chasing behind is the reason why Magister Green looks like a fool right now. Not you, Green with an E, of course. I'm saying, like, we need to do something bigger, better than that, instead of trying to get that.
Okay, so your path forward would be to completely forget about anything they've done and do our own thing. That's understandable. But the point is they've already done the work. They are already a success. What we want is to take that success and make it our own. So you're saying the best way forward to do that would just be to ignore their success and make our own. Right?
Is it really success? We didn't do it, so it can't be that good.
Fair enough. I'm turning over the floor to the others. My questions have been answered for now.
Always trying to keep a sister down. It really be your own kind. What was that acolyte worth? I mean, I don't think that was even a fair question. It don't even really apply to my understanding of the powers that we have in front of us. It don't even consider like my experiences that I can bring. Why am I going to do somebody else's job when I should be creating the opportunity for more jobs? I should be making us work for our actual betterment, and sneaking behind somebody else, dipping in their Kool-Aid ain't doing that. Like, we're not here to clean up behind nobody. We ain't here to steal from nobody. We make our own. At least that's what I was told. At least that's part of the oath, ain't it? Acolyte worth. That's no, I know, and I don't mean no disrespect, and I wasn't trying to talk out of the side of my body or nothing like that. But I'm just saying, like, that question don't even make no sense though.
I sort of chuckled. You think it makes no sense, but then by thinking it made no sense, you spoke up for yourself. You made an impression instead of just answering the question. So was it really all that bad of a question?
Well, okay.
And gives her a smile.
Okay. She ready. The tribunal goes much like that for the remainder of it. unlike usual, where it is a test of stamina and endurance and wisdom and operating under pressure, if you are being honest with yourself, there definitely seems to be a fix. It definitely seems to be as if some of the other magisters, some of the other would-be regent level or secundus level warlocks taking it easy on Acolyte Worth. And as she's left sitting in the tribunal room for you all to retire and consider and decide, you all settle in Dusabo's smoking area. He doesn't actually smoke, but he sits here and whiles away his time. Everyone knows that he smokes outside of the chantry, but inside the chantry he never actually smokes anything except for other kindred. So as you all settle into the comfortable wide-backed wing-backed chairs and begin to consider, Magister Regent Rose strokes his beard and paces. I understand that you all may be considering my reputation in considering to promote Magister Worth. I don't believe that that would be the best decision possible. We are all aware that due Grand Regent Dusabo's position, that we each have had and he pauses looking at you, idea of seeming to support those who visually align with him. And while my own reputation speaks for itself, resurrecting two chantries from complete abject failure, unifying the two chantries that operate as watchtowers to our south. And while Acolyte Worth has in fact been not a complete failure, I don't believe that in the consideration of her this evening, we should take into account any of my successes, nor should we, as I see on each of your faces, consider an affirmative action promotion. Her tone, her inflection, her essence, having tolerated her, isn't perhaps the best course forward. She's not without certain uses, and I believe those uses would not be as valuable if we allow her, due to her appearance and gender, move forward. I don't know. Magister Regent Green, what are your considerations for the Acolyte? Does she merit, by any reason, of course, a reason to ascend?
Looks at Rose. I am utterly amazed that you have yet to break your arm patting yourself so hardly on the back. But that's neither here nor there.
It is not.
I don't like
double jointed.
Indeed. Double a lot of things. But I don't particularly like the consideration as to whether or not this is a, as you said, diversity hire sort of situation. Yes, they are a bit unpolished. Yes, they are very much rough around the edges. as it were. I do feel that there was a bit of softball being played this evening. We all know, even myself as of late, that normally when we are considering somebody for that next step, things are a lot more tense. People are put under a lot more pressure, as it was. And pressure makes diamonds. She's still quite somewhat of a lump of coal, as it were, in my feelings. So it's not about her color or race or any such. It's more than the fact that I don't think she's quite at the level yet, but could be brought to that level should there be a little more pressure applied.
Miss Green. Magister Rose inserts himself, interjecting. She has had the opportunity of sitting at the feet of greatness. If she's not ready now, I don't see as her being ready for that ascendancy at all. Are you saying that you might be able to squeeze some measure of greatness from that particular grape?
No, I was not volunteering this as a personal project, but if that is what is necessary to better the Chantry as a whole and not throwing away what could be potentially useful acolyte, then maybe that would be the step I would need to take.
So you don't see it as something that you could easily accomplish. And you'd rather not have the failure, another failure, on your record of public knowledge. Is this what we're to understand? Now, of course, you know I mean no harm, but merely your record speaks for itself. You did not, in fact, assume your sire's position as master in understanding the ley lines that circulate throughout the world. You did not, in fact, manage a way to bridge the gap between the hermetics that we practice here under our hermetic rituals and those of those Coldunics. You did not, in fact, maintain spiritual ownership of the boundless energies that are the Harris viral shelter. And aren't both of your former apprentices acolytes elsewhere, and instead of under your careful tutelage?
Kind of stares at him for a minute. I have a character, I don't remember her having acolytes, but okay.
Alex Hunt and Melinda Cross.
Kind of chuckle. If I didn't know your power, I would assume that you'd been hanging out with the Toreador for the amount of gossip that you seem to have ready at your fingertips this evening.
Oh, so it's only gossip. So your acolyte Alexander Hunt, where is he?
Possibly dead.
Oh, so you had an acolyte no longer amongst us that you didn't share.
You know how children are. They wander.
So, teaching, instructing, guiding another warlock to a measure of success is beyond your ability, is what you're saying. And acolyte worth would not, in fact, be anything more than crumbled charcoal instead of the diamond that you've offered her to become.
You know, what I'm saying is, perhaps you would be much better suited for such things, seeing as how you're such a success.
Yes, I am, and yes, I understand the merit and veracity of growing a thing, instructing a thing properly, but this particular thing is not, in fact, ever going to be anything more than what she presently is, which is and he pauses and stops on a dime when it gets to that point. Not worth my continued time, not worth my continued effort. It is a sad craftsman who blames their tools. I could make something better of her, but even her best would not be good enough to ascend. She would be at best, example of what not to become to others. She would, at best, turn her back on the chantry and hide the moment things grew difficult, as they always do, because steel sharpens steel, but not without first going through the fire. She cannot be tempered any more than she is. My suggestion, and the reason why I allowed her to pursue ascendancy, is so that we might render her into parts. I am not suggesting ascendancy. I am suggesting that we retrieve all useful portions of what she is, so that others might in fact profit from the loss of time, effort, and energies in her growth. And without anyone able to make anything better of her, and even Dusabo's darling Magister Green, I think you all should second that decision, and we move forward with the date of her rendering. What say you, Magister Green? Do you think that this is in fact fair, considering she has been a drain on resources, considering that she will not be anything except for alone within the chantry structure, isolated and without any support save those she drags down?
I think there's something that I should roll to decide which direction to go in. I'm gonna look and see what I have.
It is very much a political situation. It is very much one of where is Hestia's grip on what's at play. Raw intelligence, just the muscle power, would be intelligence plus her politics. If she's attempting to find another way, a third option, a fourth option, or to not be forced into this binary decision, yay or nay, it would be her wits plus politics.
I'm gonna go with wits plus politics. I would kind of love to bat it back at him, but I'm gonna be good. Okay. I just had it. Okay. Not a bad pool, but you're rolling that. Okay, I'll take that.
So as she mulls it over, if she considers the 1 or the 0, and a third option, another path presents itself, which of the three would Hestia pursue? Much like the great late 20th century poet Tupac Shakur said, "All eyes on you."
This looks at Regent Rose. You know what? I'm remembering the fact that I would be a completely different person and somewhere else. Did one person not believe in me constantly? And that's usually all you need is one person. So, no, she's not ready to ascend at this moment. But I believe if you give me 4 months time and we will revisit it, But she should either be able to ascend, or we can move forward with placing her elsewhere or getting rid of her entirely. And I will take that loss if it becomes a loss. But if I'm right, and we redeem her and make her useful.
She has a use as vitae for others.
No, it's more than that.
Smiling, he covers the distance between you both and extends a hand. Very well. Let's make a wager on it. If you are not successful, you owe me. And if you are, I owe you.
He takes his hand and shakes it.
Ready for ascendancy, understanding the full weight of the oath, and having learned at least 1/3 circle or higher ritual to completion. As well as a little fucking respect. So, take your alkalite and give her the good news. After all, it is best that you all stick together, right?
If I didn't know that you didn't mean it the way it sounds, I would have taken offense to that just now.
And do you? Know better, that is?
I know that you like to play on the dangerous side of things. Keep that in mind, though. And she stands and walks out.
Heading back into the tribunal chamber. All of that stone and brick and the discomfiture foisted upon the would-be ascendant. Hanan sits, her back straight. Though, to be perfectly honest, there's still a significant arch as she puts some of her best features forward. As you enter, and
Seeing that, Hess walks up to her. Put those away. I'm not impressed, but I did buy you some more time.
buy me some more time. Why do I need more time?
They wanted to kill you. You're not ready yet.
I'm not ready.
And the deadline, you're not. This is why you're not ready. Respect.
Respect gotta be earned. It goes both ways.
Not here. It is given until you are given reason to not. That is the way the Chantry works. You can disrespect who you wish behind closed doors and to yourself. But to their face, you have to show all due deference to anybody higher than you.
So you here to gloat that you kept the sister down. Wait till I get back and talk to Cone about this.
I did not keep you down. I kept you from losing your fucking life.
How'd you keep me from...
Again, I state to you that if you were not given another option this evening, i.e. me, they would take you somewhere privately, drain you, and you would cease to exist. That's what happens to acolytes who do not pass.
Cone wouldn't let that happen. Cone got my back. He said you would be the only one standing. Magister Rose said that you would be the only one standing in the way.
Rose is the one that wanted to kill you. And I quote, "She's nothing worth more than life for others who deserve it."
Would you be so kind?
So unless you want to prove him wrong,
would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your charisma and persuasion in regards to your authenticity? Because it is clear that she is considering the words that you are saying, and yet it's clear also that she'd been groomed with a certain perception.
I don't know. Should we try for more?
Should you? Will you? Would you? Or are you gonna let it ride?
I'll take that little extra bump.
There's an understanding that the tree that does not bend with the wind breaks. And you watch the same break that you experienced at the hands of Sylvia fall over her face. What she believed or was allowed to believe proving to be untrue, proving to be a small facet of what was happening around her. There is a wider world, and every other entity in it has their own goals and aspirations. There is a come to Jesus moment happening right in front of your face. And unlike you, in a similar situation, she was not desiccated. She was not emaciated. She was not physically scarred in a way that made it easy to understand the lesson. No, the wounding from this is far deeper than just physically. It is all the emotional hurt you experienced and your belief of what Sylvia was, with the reality that you let someone close enough to actually harm you without verifying your reasons for trusting them. There's a world of experiences shared and immediately discounted as worse happening in her face. The realization that she was fattened up like a Christmas goose for the slaughter. The fact that the being that she
sees the hurt.
She sees the hurt?
She sees the hurt and softens her face. And that militant, in charge person that she just was breaks a little bit, and she's at kind of like the perfect height because Hess is short, we know that. She kind of looks her in the eye, and she says that's touching her chest, that what you're feeling right there, right now, I need you to take that. Remember it, hold on to it, and use it to help me, help you make him regret what he was intending to do. I want to prove him wrong, and you're going to help me prove him wrong. Please do not tell me I bet on the wrong horse. Use it. And she goes quiet to see what happens.
And as Hestia connects with Anand, as there's a understanding of actual kindred spirits, not used as vernacular, but as an understanding of one pain for the next, a twinning of experiences. I'd like to thank you for a lovely bit of play, a revisiting of where Hestia is and all that she's become.
Yay! I like it.